entertainment, insights. Don't take life too seriously. Welcome to Brainsky Unleashed. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another amazing episode of Brainsky Unleashed. I'm being joined today by a very good friend of mine, Ron Rosenthal. Ron is the kind of guy that knows a lot of stuff about dental. He's a very sharp individual, and let me just tell you, if there's anyone on earth that you want to be sitting at a hibachi bar and having a sake and enjoying some sushi and some hibachi and just having a good time, this is the guy. Absolutely fantastic guy, down to earth, bright as hell. And we're just going to be talking a little bit of technical stuff. We're going to be talking common sense. We're going to just be talking and having a good time. Hopefully enjoy the show. Welcome to the program, Ron.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. Known you a long time. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I'm glad you're having me on your little podcast today.
This is big, man. This is huge.
Sorry, nationwide
let's
podcast.
Not,
forget.
Let's not be insulting, Ron. Don't ever insult the guest.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
I actually said don't ever insult the guest. I meant don't ever insult the host. So that was my mistake. That's
okay. There it is.
Okay, so Ron, I wanted to share something with you, and this is personal. So why not let the whole universe know?
Okay.
I had a bad dream last night. And,
oh no.
Yeah, and in this dream, I was having to have dental work on 8 and 9. So for those of you who are non-dental people, 8 and 9 are your front two upper teeth.
Your two front teeth.
Your two front teeth. And my dentist wanted to put PFMs there. And I'm arguing with my dentist in my dream. And Jim, my dentist, if you are watching this argument should never take place because I know you know better. Anyway, I'm arguing with him because I don't want PFMs and I want zirconia, right? And
right. Because
zirconia is so much better, but there was some BS with I had to have some sort of strength in the backing the lingual side, the tongue side. And this just became so vivid and it started scaring the living crap out of me, Ron. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and tell this ridiculous story because you're a guy that actually knows about these materials. So for the audience, many of them who have no idea what a PFM is, can you tell that to the audience? Because I think people who, they just think I'm going to go to the dentist and the dentist says I need to get a crown and they go, okay, and they're just going to listen to whatever the dentist says. Why would you not want a PFM?
Why would we not want a PFM? Okay, well, first of all, that's a two-sided question. Yes. Because in some situations a PFM is warranted and in some situations a PFM is not warranted. So in this particular situation, in the anterior specifically, I would not want a PFM. And the reason I would not is because depending on how good your dentist is and how well he does a preparation line where the crown actually seats and finishes to, that line could theoretically be visible or cause a gray halo or a halo effect in your gum line, and it might not be as attractive as an all-ceramic restoration in the anterior.
It might not? It won't be. Okay.
No, because there are some technicians out there that can create some pretty nice things even if there's metal involved. So I've seen some pretty nice things. But all in all, I'm just going to say an all ceramic restoration by far will beat a PFM in the anterior any day.
Right. All ceramic being a zirconia or a material known as lithium disilicate. Emax is like I guess the Coca-Cola brand of that. But those look more natural because what a lot of people don't realize is when people smile and you sort of see like that graying around the tissue there and they got those big smiles, that's metal in there. That metal shows through that tissue. It's ugly.
Yes, it does. Yes, it is.
It's terrible. And you don't see it as much anymore, which is wonderful. I'm like so anti-PFM. Like I'm just, I hate them. But one of the reasons, Ron, why I hate PFMs is because you'll never be really accurate with a PFM as far as fit goes, and usually clean and natural as far as finish goes. And you certainly can't have translucency with them like you can with an all porcelain or an all ceramic because you've got to hide metal and you can't see through metal, obviously, right?
obviously.
So you've spent most of your career at this point working in a CAD/CAM environment, right?
I have. For the last 16 years now, I've been in the CAD/CAM environment,
Right. And so
dealing with purely digital.
purely digital. Now, can you have a purely digital PFM crown?
Yes, you can
No, you
nowadays.
cannot.
Yes, you can.
No, you cannot.
How do you say purely digital?
Purely digital, meaning that, I mean, I suppose the only way that you really can do it would be
If it's a full contour crown in metal.
right, or or doing a metal substructure and then pressing, pressing porcelain onto it, which it's not the most efficient way to do it by any stretch of imagination.
It's not the
It's
efficient way,
not a
but
great workflow at all.
to answer your question, yes, you can have a digital PFM.
Okay.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
yes,
All right. You know what? I will eat my words. You can. It's just not great. Now, the all metal Scott Mappin, throwing this out
yes.
there. I'm bringing Scott Mappin into this. He's not here.
You bring Scott Mappin. He's a good friend of ours.
Prior guest on my show. That guy is what it means to be full digital, all metal. Straight up. I mean, that's the greatest finish, the greatest.
And the reason I was saying PFM, and I don't mean to interrupt you, he does that now. So you have PFM alloys available from Scott Mappin at Strategy Milling.
And it is so much better than anything else that's out there. But, okay, so let's talk, though, about this stuff. And let's do it in a way where anyone who's listening to this who may have to get a crown, who knows nothing about this, I mean, for any of you who says, well, I went to my dentist and I got a cap. First of all, it's crown. I'm just throwing that out.
Yes.
Right. So the proper vernacular we're going to use here today is it is a crown, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you are on deck to have a dentist grind some teeth out there so you can get a cap or a crown, this may be a really ideal podcast to listen to. It's going to be educational. So, Ron, at this point in time, is it fair to say that there is at least a growing, sizable amount of dentists that can make these things in their office instead of sending to a lab?
Yes, there are. That's actually a market that is growing today in a considerable fashion and rate. There's a lot of doctors who want to perform same-day crowns and crowns that are milled internally with their team, with their assistants, helping the doctor every step of the way, and basically getting the equipment necessary in the office to produce these crowns on a daily basis.
Right. So the backbone of this, and I mean, you and I know it really well, but let's boil it down so people who don't know anything about it can fully understand it. When we talk about CAD/CAM, what that means is it is CAD being computer-aided design.
Correct.
And then CAM being computer-aided manufacturing. In other words, how do you take that design and get it to be made by a piece of equipment, be it a 3D printer or a milling machine or something like that? How does that thing get fabricated? And even in the doctor's office, they have CAD/CAM equipment, depending on the doctor, whether they have that or not. Is there a benefit to a same-day crown, and are there negatives to a same-day crown?
I think there are some benefits to same-day crowns, especially for single units. And when I say single units, for the average person understanding, that means one crown or one tooth. It means that it'll save them some appointment time. It'll allow the doctor to complete a same-day crown in the office, and it is a benefit because they don't have to send anything off. The customer can get serviced right away, and they can leave with a completed crown instead of a temporary taking its position in there while they wait for another manufacturer to make it. And the doctor can do it step by step with his team. Right. So yes, there are benefits to it because they get the product back faster.
What are the downsides?
The downsides could be shape, could be color, could be the fit or the form. There could be mistakes. There could be little drawbacks here and there, all depending on how the office is trained. If the office is trained really, really well and the doctor and its auxiliary staff work well, it could be a great success. If they don't, it could be a hindrance and it might not fit properly or it might not work properly. So therefore, having the file format that if they do a scan intraorally. So for the layperson, the CAD portion, we need information, and the way the doctor or the office takes that information is with an intraoral scanner. That information gets transmitted over to the laboratory or to their CAD design system, and either way, they can produce a crown from that information.
So when we talk about that, just to really make it simple, you have two ways of capturing this, right? So someone can make a crown. So in other words, the doctor is going to take your tooth, they're going to grind it down. You're going to have basically a little post, right? Everyone knows about the post. For those of us in the dental field, we call that a prep. For the lay person, they've got the post and cap. Well, this is actually a prep and crown. Okay, so in order to be able to make a crown, you have to have an impression. And you could either do that one of two ways. One of them would be literally sticking the gummy impression in the mouth, and it sits there for X amount of time while it sits, and they pull it out and they throw it, disinfect it, doctors. They throw it in a box, and then it goes off to a laboratory, and a laboratory then pours it up in stone, so it goes from a negative to a positive, and then that's something that could get scanned in a lab using a lab scanner, and then designed from there. Or in the offices, in the dentist offices, they have those wands now, these intraoral scanners, and that is essentially a digital impression. And so they just run that wand around the patient's mouth and the prep there. And then from there, the office or the laboratory, if they decide to send the file out, can then fabricate the crown. Now, you mentioned that there may be some negatives in the office. One could argue that you may still also have the same negatives from a laboratory. But the likelihood of having those exact same negatives more often from a laboratory, I believe in my mind, are lower, because this is what these people do for a living, versus the office. So let's talk about that, at least on the office side. Where can doctors go wrong? They get themselves CADCAM, and how do they prevent it or improve the situation?
Well, I think the most important part of fixing or improving the situation, if they run into a mistake, is not knowing the workflow or the protocol well. And what I mean by that is not knowing the necessary steps from start to finish, how to produce the necessary parts to get where they need to go. So workflow is the most important, and following the right steps along the way, and training your staff and your team to work with you in conjunction to get the right information is extremely important. So you rely upon your auxiliary staff to get that information, and sometimes they, for example, the first way, which is the impression way, they let the assistants take the impression, and then the doctor checks it to make sure it's okay. They do the same thing digitally, but sometimes digitally they might not have the background necessary to do that. So how do we do that? We offer training and we teach them to improve that situation.
So give me a really good example of that going wrong. Like, it's one thing to say they didn't do it right, but what does that look like? How would someone even know if they didn't do that right?
Well, there are ways to notice that on the actual screen, and there are different, I would say, fashions for them digitally to notice that there's something wrong. There could be like all kinds of artifacts on the screen that you're looking at that shouldn't be there.
Artifacts like dinosaur bones?
No, artifacts like missing pieces to the actual file, so that you have holes and large holes, or you have, let's say, artifacts, what I mean, like extra like pieces added on that should not be there, because things are being meshed together on a regular basis. The information is coming in from a camera, and if it's not being moved properly, it can cause all kinds of additional information that doesn't need to be there. So it's all kinds of scatter, and that scatter can cause problems where the lab or the person at the dental office can't see what they're scanning or what they need, so that they can produce the crown necessary to fit on top of that preparation. So if it's not clean and if it's not visible properly, you're not going to get a good result. So these are kind of things, flag points you got to pay attention to when you're dealing with digital, and you have to be taught to pay attention to these things. And when when you're dealing with an intraoral scanner, there's a pattern and a way to move the scanner and the camera in order to capture all the information. Because a lot of you don't know that the camera itself is a mechanical piece, but there are algorithms in the software that control everything for the desired outcome. So moving it in a specific way and repetitive, consistent, proper motion of that camera will give you the best result.
So I'm going to ask you, I think this is kind of a crappy question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
There's no such thing, Tom.
Oh, no, this is kind of a crappy question. But if somebody out there who's listening, maybe having dental problems, maybe afraid of taking impressions. I know I, for one, am a gigantic gagger. It's a lot of us out there. You know, we could probably We could probably have like groups like AA for all of us gaggers to just get together and talk all about that and help each other come down from that fear of
a workshop. We have to have a workshop on gaggers.
We could actually have a gagging workshop, which would be great. As a matter of fact, I think that's going to be my new thing. But how would someone know whether they should go to their current dentist, or should they choose, because they don't, their current dentist may not have a wand? I mean, should they be calling offices? Should they be calling around? Like, how does someone figure out what's best for them? It's kind of not a great question, because some people may just simply have insurance that dictates where they go. But
that's actually a very valid question.
I mean, of course it's valid because I asked it.
Oh, well, no, it's not because you asked it. It's a valid question in the industry. So most people, most educated people, rely on asking questions or being guided by the professional that they're going to see. Some people don't know the questions that they need to ask, especially in dental.
What are they?
So, yeah.
Yeah, what are they? Go ahead.
Some of the questions are straightforward. Like, I usually, if I go in and I'm having my teeth cleaned by my hygienist, first question is, so has doctor gotten into any digital, or is there new equipment or new things available, new treatment plan? So the hygienist starts talking about it and filling you in on what's available and some of the possibilities that are available. Not every office is digitally inclined. Some of them still want to do the impression technique and send it off to the laboratory. So these are questions that you want to ask, possibly, or find out, hey, do you have any modern way of doing this so I don't have to have the impression material in my mouth and go through that goopy situation? Do you do CADCAM, or do you do same-day crowns, or what do you offer? And even looking at their website, as most offices now have a website because of the modern day and age with computers, you can see this information because the doctors are sharing it proudly to actually bring in more customers and say, hey, we can offer you this, and this. So not only can you educate yourself online, but you can ask the questions to the staff when you're there for your regular appointment.
Are there any red flags that people should be looking out for when looking for a dentist? And it may not even be, you're sitting in a chair and the hygienist is working on you, but it may be, my tooth hurts and I haven't been to a dentist in 45 years because I'm afraid of gagging. Again, part of the club, card-carrying member. What are some red flags people should be looking for if they're even calling around looking for a dentist?
Red flags. That's a hard one.
There's the tough question then.
That's a very tough question because, one, we don't want to offend any of the practicing dentists out there, but they have to be aware that people are looking at how modern your office is, how up-to-date your office is, some of the equipment that you carry, or things that they see when they walk in. Is the waiting room modernized? Do you walk into a friendly environment where everything is kind of up-to-date? If you're walking into a practice that seems like it's from 1970 and hasn't changed, you're walking to a practice that you can probably expect, okay, I'm going to get an impression and the doctor's like status quo, and there's nothing wrong with some of those offices, and they meet the need. But if you want modern and you want people that are moving with the times, or some of the, let's say, more recent graduates, let's say from 2010 and higher, those doctors are looking at digital and looking at moving things and shaking things and moving things into the future. So these are the kind of doctors you want to look for. That'll give you an advantage in proper dental care, but also state of the art.
Okay. I'm just asking your opinion on this. I have my own, just having dealt with the Never had it done, never had it used on me before, but it certainly intrigues me. What's your opinion on laser versus drill when it comes to prep work?
Laser versus drill when it comes to prep work.
Familiar
Well,
with these? You've never seen the laser? How they?
I've never seen a laser
Oh,
drill,
what?
but I've seen a laser used for tissue maintenance for
Oh
troughing
no,
and things like that.
no! They have lasers that can replace a drill. I know something you don't. All right,
Yes, you
so
do.
yeah,
Yes, you
so
do. I've not seen that, so that's pretty
I
neat.
had when I owned a lab, I had a dentist who used her laser instead of a drill and would laser off tissue. Now, my understanding is that it does take a little bit longer than a drill. A drill will cut away tooth faster, but the laser does it painlessly without heat. And so you could basically do this without any Novocaine at all. I mean, people may want Novocaine
Interesting.
for comfort, but yeah, it's apparently it's apparently a lot better in some respects. From a technician standpoint, it did not provide a clean finish on the prep, which could either help you for cementation and retention or hurt you for clarity of where's the margin. But I was curious if you had an opinion on that one because that's at least
I would actually, to be honest with you, I'd probably prefer the old school method, which is actually with diamond
diamond
burrs
burrs. Yeah.
and cutting and having the injection to do it, because I think you can, like you said, get a cleaner preparation, a finer preparation, more detailed preparation, and maybe that technology has not come along enough yet to give the desired results that we've been getting for years with diamond burrs. So I'm kind of old school on that, because I want not only the doctor and, let's say, the internal staff seeing the margin and the finish lines, I want the lab to see the finish lines. So the details are very important, because if the details are good and you have good details, you're going to have a successful outcome and the patient's going to be happy, and usually the restoration is going to last a long time, and then everybody's happy.
So speaking of everyone being happy, one of the things that I know from years of experience is shade of a crown is important. Getting the
Yep.
shade right is so critical. I mean, the funny thing is, patients may not even give a crap about the fit as much as they care about the shade, whereas the dentist cares very deeply about the fit for the long-term health of the tooth below it. But the
Right.
shade, obviously, it's important to them because they want the patient to shut the F up and leave and never come back, except for future use, of course. But where where can shade be? How can shade be more accurate? What can be done to improve the situation where the shade is more accurate right out of the gate?
Shade is more accurate right out of the
God,
gate.
I'm just frying today.
Uh,
This is fun stuff. Look at
well, it's fun stuff, but the question is, again, uh, Vita was the first, I would say, to come out with the Vita shade guide and the shade tomography system. So taking a shade electronically, so where it would actually put a light in and get a reading back from the tooth, so that it can actually give you a base shade or a base color to work from. But I don't think there's anything more accurate than the human eye in the right color environment. And I think doctor and laboratory both have to be trained on how to see color and understand color and how it changes, how it resonates in what you're looking at, and try to achieve base tones and shades that are closer to what the patient has. Now, I've seen a lot of doctors that don't care anything that happens from the second bicuspid back, and I've seen a lot of doctors that do. So it depends on the situation, because they're saying anything in the posterior behind that second bicuspid. And for those of you who don't understand, there you have a tooth here that's a smaller tooth, and you have your first molar, and as you move back, it gets darker. So normally you can't tell as much if the shade is off. If you're moving towards the front where you're smiling and you have a big smile line like I do or like Tom does, visibly we can see the shade and see the differences. And that's where having an accurate color is extremely important. So how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean,
It's training. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years, and color. I was the lead ceramist in my laboratory. So taking a shade, depending on the color effects that are going on around you. You have color inside from neon lights, you have color from natural sunlight, you have color that's affected by the clouds. So everything affects the overall outcome of the shade. So I would get like 2 or 3 different views from different directions, and I would take pictures, and we would use either an intraoral camera to take a picture, or we would use a Nikon camera with light diffusion to get the proper color, or at least a picture, so that we can see this. So the dental office, if they're working with the laboratory, should provide these pictures in file format to the lab so that they have something coming that they can actually visually see with the case. Now, does that happen all the time? No. But for a large case in the anterior where people are smiling, I would say 90% of the time the doctor will send you the right piece of information.
I'm nodding my head because no, it's nowhere near 90%. But, you know, I think anyone who has an upcoming case, to me, this is actually somewhat of a red flag. Not emergency, you know, shut the whole thing down, go to a different dentist, you know, pull the fire alarm and run. Or if you're in Congress, the fire alarm, someone may just believe it's like a unlock button, which go figure. But they're brilliant. Totally brilliant people. Best people on earth in Washington. The smartest people ever. But
let's not go.
But one thing that I think is if you're a patient and your doctor has this gigantic picture window right there in the operatory, that may be great for you to look out over the peaceful, serene, or maybe the traffic on the bridge that's right outside the window or whatever it is. But that's not actually a great thing for shade taking. Because that light actually conflicts with the light that they may have above their heads. It may conflict with the lights in the room. So getting shade is not always the easiest thing on earth. And I agree with you completely. Sending pictures is really important. So I would encourage patients to actually step up and speak up and say, hey, listen, you know, can we get pictures sent? And that will probably get the patient a better outcome.
I agree.
Of course,
I absolutely agree.
You should. If you didn't, you and I would have words. I wouldn't buy.
We're not having words. We agree with each other. We're actually being quiet, which is really fun.
I would not buy you sake anymore. If you.
No, you would not.
I would still buy you sake. Come on. All right. So Ron, we're kind of running a little bit low on time.
Okay.
I would love to have you back as a guest. As a matter of fact, I would even like to even just take this show live at some point and just banter because I happen to love you and you're so dashingly handsome.
Well, I appreciate that. I would love to also. And you know, the fun thing in this conversation is we never got into material, and there's a lot of material choices out there. And I help and work with a company called America's Smiles Network that happens to sell a lot of great material, also equipment. And I want to put my little plug in for America's Smiles Network because they're a great team and a great bunch of people, and I associate with them on a daily basis. And I answer questions as well as sell, service, and support. So I can carry this on for them. But for those doctors out there, I'm getting to the plug. For those doctors out there, I am putting on a wonderful seminar in Las Vegas with Daniel Portal, who is an ExoCAD expert, and I am doing the machining side and material side. And we are doing a 2.5-day seminar in Vegas that we would like to promote and say that if you come to Vegas, your auxiliary staff as well as yourself will learn great workflow from intraoral scanning through design to milling and material choice in 2.5 days. And it's a very all-encompassing program.
Where in Vegas?
We are doing it in Vegas at a educational building that is not on the Strip. And all the information is provided to you on our QR code that is on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and you just have to look for it and you can register for it there. And we look forward to educating you and enlightening you and hopefully sharing some good times and bringing you guys up to speed in a digital world that is changing on a daily basis.
All right, so we are also going to have to get that link and put that link in the bottom of the whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. Or
absolutely.
It is, and all of our amazing distribution channels for the show. So we got to make sure that we have that link for everyone in addition to going to their Well, thank you again, Ron, so much. Thank you for jumping in and plugging even before I gave you the opportunity, because you know me so well and knew exactly where I was going to go. And that, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is what friendship is about. And sake.
And sake.
And sake.
Yes, doctor.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.